Your life is the mirror image of the habits you practice daily. Transform your habits, and you change the entire course of your life. This isn't a catchy phrase, it's the reality behind every successful person you've ever seen. If you've been working tirelessly but haven't seen the kind of progress you expect, the issue likely isn't your ambition or your dreams, it's your routines. Success isn't something that magically appears one day. It's the consequence of consistent actions repeated every single day, without skipping, without excuses, and without hesitation. This audiobook will reveal 10 habits that every successful person follows with unbreakable consistency. These aren't abstract concepts or feel-good slogans. They are tangible, proven behaviors that build mental resilience, unshakable discipline, and long-term achievement. You'll learn how these individuals think, how they move, how they stay razor-sharp, and how they reject comfort as their master. The beauty of these habits? You can adopt them immediately. No special skills, no waiting period, just decisive action. If you're tired of constantly starting over and ready to finally construct a life that works, stay with me until the very end. What you're about to hear could completely shift your mindset and redirect your entire life. The first step begins the instant you wake up. The very first moment your alarm clock sounds is the initial battle of the day, and it's a battle successful people win without fail. They don't roll over. They don't negotiate with their comfort. They don't tell themselves, just 5 more minutes. Those 5 minutes are not just 5 minutes, they're a signal. A signal to your brain, your patterns, and your destiny that comfort holds more value than commitment. And if that message becomes your daily rhythm, what kind of future are you building? Success doesn't hinge on some extraordinary event or breakthrough. It's crafted from the ordinary choices you make when nobody's watching. Choices that may seem trivial to others, but hold immense weight in shaping who you become. Getting out of bed at the moment you said you would. It sounds simple, but simplicity does not mean it's easy, especially when the bed feels inviting, when your body pleads for rest, or when the outside world seems unwelcoming. Yet, this is exactly where the divide happens. Successful individuals move forward regardless of how they feel. They don't wait to feel motivated or inspired. They act because they've made a promise to themselves. They understand that the way they begin their day sets the foundation for everything that follows. You either launch your day from a place of power, or you begin from a place of procrastination, and those two starting points lead to drastically different outcomes. Every time you rise without delay, you strengthen a deep core within you. You tell your future self, I can rely on me. That trust you build with yourself is priceless. If you can't trust yourself to follow through on something as basic as getting out of bed on time, how can you trust yourself to stay consistent in your business, your health, or your relationships? Discipline isn't built in grand moments. It's formed in the small, often overlooked decisions. And this is one of the most important. People constantly ask, how do I build better habits? It starts right here, by mastering your mornings. Win the first moment when the alarm rings, and you'll win many others that follow. Stand up before your mind has the opportunity to negotiate. Move your body, take a breath, face the day with purpose. That's how successful individuals operate. They don't sit around waiting for applause or external motivation. When you rise and act immediately, your body begins respecting your mind. Your energy shifts. You feel sharper, more awake, and already ahead. Most people begin their day already behind because they surrender to the snooze button. But this battle isn't against the alarm, it's against your internal resistance. And every time you conquer that resistance, you carry newfound strength into every area of your life. The people who achieve consistent success don't rely on fleeting motivation. They create systems that eliminate the need for it entirely. They don't strike deals with the alarm clock. They don't scroll through their phones first thing in the morning. They don't dwell on what went wrong yesterday. They rise, reset, and start their day with purpose before the world has a chance to disrupt them. Understand this. Life doesn't pause so you can catch up. If you continue granting yourself permission to stay in bed when you know you should be rising, you're not just falling behind, you're allowing your emotions to dictate your future. And when emotions become your compass, success will always feel distant and unattainable. This isn't about bragging that you wake up early. It's about taking control before the day takes control of you. It's about following through because you said you would, because you're no longer allowing comfort to rule your existence. This shift, if practiced daily, will transform your entire outlook. Start modestly. Set your alarm for a time that stretches you without overwhelming you. Don't sleep with your phone within arm's reach. Place it across the room so you're forced to physically rise. The moment that alarm sounds, get up. Don't give your brain time to create arguments or excuses. Move first, think later. Action builds confidence. Delay breeds doubt. Don't just rise, move into action. Drink water. Make your bed. Open the window. Breathe deeply. Stretch. Feel alive. These seemingly insignificant actions stack upon each other. They condition your mind to embrace progress rather than avoidance. Each small win strengthens your discipline. The reason so many people feel stuck is because they begin each morning by lying to themselves. They say they'll get up early, but they don't. They say they'll be productive, but instead, they scroll through distractions. They say they want change, but they continue choosing the same behaviors that hold them back. You cannot build a new life while clinging to old habits. The transformation starts from the moment you open your eyes. If you can win that first moment, you will begin to believe you can win any moment. Success leaves clues, and this is one of the clearest. Get up at the time you promise yourself. Do it every day. No excuses? No. Just this once. Become the kind of person who follows through even on the smallest of commitments, because when you do, you'll one day wake up and realize you've built a life filled with strength, purpose, and true freedom. If you start something, you finish it. That's one of the most powerful patterns successful people live by every single day. It has nothing to do with how big or small the task is. It doesn't matter if it's thrilling or tedious, simple or complicated. What matters is the commitment you made when you began. When you continually abandon tasks halfway, you're not just leaving work unfinished. You're building a damaging pattern that whispers, "I can't follow through." And over time, hearing that message repeatedly makes you believe it. Consider your typical day. You might begin a task. Perhaps it's something as simple as knocking out a few errands, a workout, having that uncomfortable conversation you've been avoiding, or diving into a business venture or personal development goal. You start with good intentions and energy. But the moment it becomes inconvenient, dull, or more difficult than you imagined, you hesitate. You tell yourself, "Later," or "It's not the right time." That decision seems harmless in the moment. But every skipped finish builds a chain that tightens around your potential. Successful people understand that they need to see things through, even when they're no longer in the mood, even when no one else is watching, even when their body protests and their mind wanders. They've trained themselves to push through discomfort. They've developed mental stamina by completing what they start, no matter how they feel. The reality is simple. Growth requires that you finish. Period. It demands that you continue even when motivation evaporates. Even when distractions multiply. Even when the work becomes mind-numbingly repetitive. Mastery isn't built in the thrilling moments of starting something new. It's forged in the boring, tedious middle when most people give up. The real power lies in closing the loop. Each time you bring a task to completion, no matter how small, you stack a new brick of self-respect. You create an inner confidence that whispers, "I do what I say." And that voice becomes your anchor when life tests you. It's not boastful. It's not loud. But it's deep. And depth is where true strength lives. No one, absolutely no one, feels motivated all the time. That's not how life works. There will be mornings you wake up foggy, days when your body feels like lead, moments when progress feels painfully slow. But success doesn't belong to the person who waits to feel inspired. It belongs to the person who decides once, and then honors that decision daily, especially when it's hard. One reason people fail to grow is because they keep changing direction whenever boredom creeps in. They start a workout routine but quit after a week. They launch a new project but abandon it before they see real progress. They start writing, dreaming, planning, but rarely cross the finish line. And every time they quit, they convince themselves it's harmless. But inside, they're tearing down the very foundation they're trying to build. If you truly want to break that pattern, start simple. Pick one task you've been avoiding. Complete it today, regardless of whether you feel like it. Don't overthink it. Don't negotiate with yourself. Act. And when you finish, pay attention to how you feel. That quiet pride. That moment where you realize, I followed through. That's where self-trust begins. This isn't about perfection. It's about deliberate progress. It's about stacking up finished tasks, one by one, and allowing that repetition to build a sense of identity. Someone who follows through, someone who takes ownership, someone who can be counted on. You won't always have the luxury of perfect conditions. You'll feel drained, distracted, and emotionally off some days. But your energy level doesn't need to dictate your discipline. You don't need fireworks to stay consistent. You need grit. The quiet kind that doesn't show off but delivers results. People severely underestimate how powerful one completed task can be. It's not about productivity hacks or checking off lists to feel busy. It's about identity. Every time you finish what you start, you reinforce the truth that you take your commitments seriously. Others will begin to notice. They'll trust you. They'll respect your discipline. Because they'll see that you're not like everyone else who quits when it's inconvenient. You don't have to accomplish everything at once. But you do need to make finishing your standard. Whether it's a small daily task or a major long-term project, follow through. Stay locked in even when excitement fades. Stay accountable even when no one is pushing you. Stay grounded in values rather than fleeting emotions. Think of each task as a promise you've made. Every broken promise weakens you. But every completed promise strengthens your foundation. You build stronger focus, sharper discipline, and full control over your direction. That's what separates people who dream from people who build. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need overwhelming talent. If you master the discipline of finishing, your progress will begin slowly, but soon it will compound. And one day, you'll glance back and realize you've become someone completely different. Not because of luck. Not because of some magical breakthrough. But because you made one choice repeatedly, to finish what you start. This is what real success looks like. Quiet, steady, sometimes painfully dull. But powerful beyond measure. Most people stop long before they've built anything meaningful. But not you. You'll go one more step. One more rep. One more hour of focus. Not because it's easy, but because you've chosen to be different. If you want to separate yourself, stop quitting early. Stop entertaining the idea of quitting altogether. Start finishing. Build that muscle daily. Protect it fiercely. Use it relentlessly. And soon your life will reflect a strength that can't be faked. The results will eventually speak louder than your words. People will see it in how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. And they'll wonder how you achieved it. But you'll know. You didn't wait for luck. You didn't rely on talent. You simply finished. Most people lose control of their day before it even begins. Not because they're lazy, but because they lack structure. They wake up and immediately fall into reaction mode, answering messages, checking notifications, bouncing between distractions, constantly pulled in multiple directions. They spend hours being busy but accomplish very little that actually moves their life forward. By the time evening comes, they're drained, frustrated, and still stuck where they started. What they don't realize is that this chaotic start isn't random. It's a symptom of not taking ownership of their schedule. Success thrives on structure. Not complicated systems. Not endless planning. Just simple, clear structure. And one of the most effective tools for reclaiming control over your day is incredibly basic. Write a list. Not a mental list floating around in your head. Not a digital to-do list you barely check. Physically write it down. Pen to paper. Every morning, take just a few minutes to clearly map out what needs to happen today. That simple act of writing turns abstract intention into something real. It forces you to clarify your priorities. This is what matters today. This is what will get done. This habit may seem trivial, but it holds incredible power. That list becomes your blueprint. It silences the mental noise. It protects your focus from spiraling into overthinking. It removes the constant temptation to shuffle priorities based on momentary feelings. The list keeps your mind anchored. Far too many people burn their energy thinking about what they should do instead of simply doing it. They analyze endlessly, debating where to start, how long each task will take, whether they're even in the mood. All of that mental chatter drains them before any real work even begins. You don't need a perfect plan every morning. You just need a simple one. Once that list is written, stop second-guessing. Don't overcomplicate it. Pick an item and start. Let momentum carry you forward. The work itself will sharpen your focus once you're in motion. Trying to hold everything in your head is a recipe for overwhelm. Your brain isn't designed to manage that kind of load. That's why you feel scattered, why you procrastinate, why you constantly chase low-value distractions. Offloading that information onto paper creates mental space. It allows your brain to do what it's best at, execution, not storage. But don't turn your list into a trap. Many people make the mistake of writing down 20 or 30 items, convincing themselves they're being ambitious. In reality, they're setting themselves up for paralysis. Your list should be focused and intentional. Pick the 3 to 5 most important actions that truly move you forward. The uncomfortable ones you've been avoiding. The tasks that challenge you to grow. If you attempt to do everything, you'll end up doing nothing. But if you commit to finishing just a few meaningful tasks every single day, you'll stack consistent wins. And over time, those small victories compound into significant momentum. Overthinking is often just fear in disguise. It masquerades as preparation, but in truth, it's avoidance. You burn through your motivation analyzing all the ways something might not work. You imagine obstacles that haven't even happened yet. And while you sit paralyzed, time slips away. The opportunity fades. The day passes. Nothing changes. You don't need more thinking. You need more action. More forward motion. That's what the list gives you, a framework to act without emotional negotiation. Once the task is written, the decision is made. Now you execute. Successful people don't rely on willpower to keep making decisions all day. They make one decision in the morning, and then they follow through. They don't wake up wondering what's important. They've already decided. They don't leave the door open for distractions to creep in. They protect their time with clear direction. That's why most people aren't struggling with lack of time. They're struggling with lack of clarity. They don't know what truly matters, so they default to the easiest task, the most urgent message, the latest distraction. Their day feels full, but empty of meaningful progress. You can train your mind to break that cycle. But you must start by externalizing your plan. Don't try to hold it in your head. Write it down. Make it visible. Keep it simple. 3 to 5 key tasks. The ones that matter. The ones you avoid. The ones that stretch you. When you feel resistance, that's your signal you've identified something important. Move toward it. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't delay for a better mood. Begin. Start with the first task on your list. Don't worry about the rest. Focus your full energy on what's in front of you. Even if you only finish 1 or 2 of those important tasks in a day, that's real progress. That's growth. And over time, you'll find your ability to focus sharpening. You'll train your mind to seek momentum rather than avoidance. Each completed task fuels the next. You build energy by moving, not by thinking about moving. Progress builds confidence. The more action you take, the stronger your discipline grows. The stronger your discipline, the less you're controlled by emotion or distraction. At the end of each day, Evaluate your list. Ask yourself, did I do what mattered today? Not everything. Just the essentials. If the answer is yes, you're advancing. If the answer is no, don't make excuses. Adjust your focus tomorrow. Don't abandon the habit. Refine it. This isn't a complicated system. It's brutally simple. That's what makes it powerful. Most people want complex solutions because complexity feels safer. It gives them an excuse to stay stuck in preparation mode. But true progress is built on clarity and simplicity. You don't need an app. You don't need a system upgrade. You need a pen. You need 5 minutes of honest reflection. You need to decide what truly matters today, and then execute, no matter how you feel. This habit extends into every area of life. Whether you're building a business, improving your health, strengthening your relationships, or pursuing personal goals, the structure remains the same. Identify what matters. Write it down. Do it. Evaluate. Repeat. Don't wait for motivation to carry you. Build a system that removes the need for motivation altogether. That's where true freedom lives. You're no longer trapped by indecision or hesitation. You're driven by clear action. Each morning becomes a reset. A chance to recalibrate. To strip away the noise and zero in on what counts. This is how focused people live. This is how consistent progress is built. Start tomorrow. Before you check your phone. Before the world reaches for your attention. Sit quietly. Grab your notebook. Write your short, honest list. And then begin. No more spinning. No more excuses. Just deliberate, focused execution. If you want to build real progress, you need to learn one powerful truth. You must be willing to work when others are resting. This doesn't mean you never take breaks. Rest is important. But you cannot expect extraordinary results while living like the average person. If you want a life that stands out, you have to put in work when most people slow down. While others are still sleeping on weekends, you're already working. While they're wasting hours scrolling through distractions, you're building momentum. While they make excuses for why they'll start tomorrow, you're already moving today. You can't live by average routines and expect exceptional outcomes. If you want more than average, you must become more than average. This is where the real separation happens, not in big, public moments, but in quiet, private decisions. When there's no applause. When nobody is watching. When it's just you, your discipline, and your commitment to the work. People love to romanticize success as luck, or talent, or connections. But strip it all away, and you'll find one core ingredient: time. How you use your time, especially when others waste theirs, determines how far you will go. You and every person alive have the same 24 hours every day. The difference is in what you do with yours. Most people are waiting for ideal conditions, for the perfect moment to work, for motivation to strike, for the stars to align. That's why they stay stuck. Because ideal conditions rarely exist. The person who succeeds is the one who moves forward anyway. Tired or not, motivated or not, comfortable or not. At every turn, you will face a choice. Do you pause and relax, or do you lean into the work? Do you trade this moment for comfort, or do you sacrifice now so you can live differently later? Every time you choose the work, you're not just making progress on a task, you're shaping your mind. You're conditioning yourself to push through resistance. When you work while others delay, you're not only stacking results. You're widening the gap between yourself and your competition. And most people aren't even aware it's happening. They see someone rising, but they never see the long, quiet hours that built the rise. They see results but miss the sacrifice behind them. This advantage compounds quietly. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's discipline. Over time, those small, consistent efforts turn into better skills, sharper habits, stronger focus, and larger opportunities. The gap grows. And by the time others notice, you've already built something solid that cannot be shaken. There will be moments when the price feels heavy. When others are out enjoying themselves while you stay locked in. When comfort whispers that you deserve to coast. But that's where growth happens. Every time you stay locked in while others take the easy route, you strengthen a mindset that separates winners from the masses. This habit of working during the quiet hours, early mornings, late nights, weekends, becomes your competitive edge. It creates distance that talent alone cannot close. Not because you worked harder once, but because you worked harder consistently. Most people want success until they realize what it actually demands. Then they shrink back. They don't lack ability, they lack endurance. They don't want the sacrifice. They want the reward without paying the price. But you are not like them. You know the truth. You understand that mastery requires uncomfortable effort. You are willing to show up when it's inconvenient. You are willing to build when nobody's watching. You move while others sit still. That is your advantage. You must train your mind to focus deeply, even when it feels inconvenient. That's where your edge sharpens. Not when you're motivated, but when you're not. Not when the work is easy, but when it's repetitive, difficult, and unglamorous. It's in these moments that your discipline becomes stronger than your emotions. Where you don't negotiate with yourself. Where you execute the plan you set, regardless of how you feel in the moment. That's where real strength is forged. You don't need others to understand your work ethic. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You simply need to keep going. The quiet hours you put in while others coast are the very hours that transform everything about your future. Even if you don't see the payoff right away, trust that it's accumulating. Every extra hour invested compounds into something lasting: resilience, skill, wisdom, and confidence. These are internal assets no one can take from you. This is discipline, showing up when it's hard. Staying consistent when motivation fades. Leaning into the process when it feels like nothing is happening. Building something while the world watches Netflix and scrolls their lives away. You don't wait for permission to work harder. You don't ask others to understand your obsession. You simply move forward. Every hour used while others waste theirs is an investment in your edge. Over time, the gap grows wide. They'll see your results and wonder how you got there. They'll think you had better luck or better opportunities. But you'll know the real answer: you worked while they waited. You sacrificed comfort. You did what they weren't willing to do. This isn't punishment. It's power. It's freedom. Because you are shaping a life built on purpose, not excuses. But don't misunderstand, this isn't about grinding 24/7. Rest is important, but only when it's earned. Only when you know you've pushed yourself and honored your commitments. Rest after discipline feels different. It feels peaceful because you know you've done the work. Don't confuse balance with avoidance. Many people hide behind balance when they're really running from the work. Ask yourself, have I earned this rest? Have I pushed my limits today? If not, return to the work. Begin small. You don't need to burn yourself out. You just need to consistently make small sacrifices while others delay. Wake up an hour earlier. Use your evenings to refine your skills. Spend weekends learning while others waste time. This time becomes your separation. Quietly. Steadily. Day by day. You're not in competition with others. You're in competition with who you were yesterday. And each day you work while others relax, you widen that gap. Not immediately. But eventually, the results will be undeniable. The confidence will grow. The opportunities will appear. The life you envisioned will begin to take shape. Because you refused to coast. Because you moved when others stood still. At some point, people will ask you how you did it. And your answer will be simple: I worked when you relaxed. I practiced while you wasted time. I moved while you hesitated. I showed up when nobody else would. This is the price. This is why most won't reach it. But this is why you will. Don't fear being different. Don't fear walking a path most avoid. Build your own standards. Set your own pace. Become comfortable choosing effort over ease. That silent grind, that invisible, consistent work, is your advantage. It's what builds unshakable confidence. It's what creates separation that can't be closed by talent alone. There will be days when it feels like no one sees your work. When it feels like you're pouring in effort and getting nothing back. Those are the most important days. The days that shape your future. Keep going. Not because it's easy. Not because it's exciting. But because you've made the decision to commit, and you honor that commitment, no matter how you feel. Results aren't built in the spotlight. They're built in solitude. In early mornings. In late nights. In the quiet discipline when the world is distracted. You don't need secrets. You don't need hacks. You need consistent, focused daily work, while others hesitate. You already know what needs to be done. Now move. Don't wait. The world will keep distracting itself. You keep building. One of the most powerful shortcuts to rapid growth is simple. Study those who have already achieved what you're after. Stop guessing. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel. The blueprint is already out there, left behind by people who walked this road before you. Success leaves tracks. Follow them. Winners don't hide their secrets. Their habits, disciplines, and decisions are visible if you're willing to look closely. They've made the mistakes. They've learned the hard lessons. They've corrected the errors. You don't need to repeat their failures. You simply need to observe and apply. Start by choosing someone who has real results. Not just someone who talks well, but someone whose life reflects proof. It could be in business, fitness, discipline, relationships, anywhere you want to grow. Study them with attention. Watch how they manage time, handle setbacks, maintain focus. Look at their routine, their thinking, their problem solving. Success is not about mimicking their lifestyle. It's about replicating their principles. If a top performer has a morning routine that sharpens focus, copy it. If they use strict time management to avoid distractions, apply it. Don't argue with what works. Use what is proven. Many waste years stumbling in circles because they tried to figure everything out alone, ignoring the examples right in front of them. They confuse copying with weakness. But copying is wisdom when it saves you time, pain, and frustration. Learn from the ones who already cracked the code. Don't spread your attention across dozens of influencers. Go deep on one or two. People whose values match your destination. Rewatch their talks. Reread their lessons. Replay their interviews. Ask yourself constantly, what would they do if they were in my shoes right now? This isn't about imitation, it's about absorbing their thinking patterns. Mindset shapes action. And action shapes destiny. Watch closely how winners think. When challenges arise, notice how they respond. Where others see obstacles, winners see strategies. Where others get emotional, winners stay calculated. When most freeze at the first sign of failure, winners adapt and continue. That ability to adjust is a learned skill. It's not natural for most people. But by modeling how winners respond to problems, you rewire your own thinking to become solution-oriented. Emotion loses its grip. Logic takes control. Be selective in who you learn from. Not every loud voice has earned the right to advise you. Listen to those whose results back up their words. Results speak louder than opinions. Look for the people who have actually built what they teach. Make this a daily habit. In the mornings, instead of wasting energy on empty content, feed your mind with the lessons of those further ahead. Read their books. Take notes. Extract their habits. Look for their discipline. Ask yourself, where am I falling short compared to this? What would they execute today if they were living my schedule? True winners simplify. They don't overcomplicate success. They focus on what matters, eliminate noise, protect their energy, and move with clarity. If you only absorb that one habit, ruthless focus on what matters, you'll already be ahead of most people. Most people stay stuck because they want exciting novelty, not steady repetition. But winners embrace the boring work. They know progress is built in consistency, not constant stimulation. Don't just study their victories. Study their failures too. See how they handled setbacks, rejection, doubt, fear. This is where real growth happens. Every person at the top was once a beginner who stumbled. The difference is, they didn't stay down. They got up, studied what went wrong, made adjustments, and moved forward smarter. That's the blueprint. You're not supposed to invent your path from nothing. You're supposed to collect the best strategies that are already working for those ahead of you, and apply them with discipline and consistency. The ones who succeed aren't necessarily the smartest or most talented. They're the ones who apply proven principles with ruthless consistency. They work the system. They respect what works more than they chase what feels good. As you model winners, be brutally honest with yourself. You will discover where you've been wasting time, where you've been avoiding the hard work, where you've allowed distractions to dominate. That awareness is uncomfortable, but it's the beginning of your transformation. Don't delay action after you learn. Apply what you discover immediately. Don't say, someday. Apply today. Growth doesn't happen through inspiration alone, it happens through application. You'll also realize winners build systems that reduce friction. They don't rely on willpower. They design their days so that discipline becomes automatic. You can build these systems too. Structure removes the need for constant decision-making. When you create automatic routines, you conserve energy for what matters. Winners don't sit around hoping to feel motivated. They've engineered their lives so action becomes a habit. They don't wake up and debate whether or not they'll train, work, study, or execute. It's already decided. This is the kind of structure you must build. And you don't need to figure it out from scratch. The blueprint is in front of you, left behind by those who already built their success brick by brick. Look at what they avoid. Look at how they navigate failure. Look at how they control their emotions. Look at how they course correct when things fall apart. That's where you'll learn the most, not from their highlight reels, but from their behind-the-scenes process. Every winner was once uncertain, lost, and confused. They weren't born with clarity. They created clarity by studying, applying, failing, correcting, and repeating. And so will you. Success isn't about being original. It's about being disciplined enough to work the proven patterns with relentless consistency. You don't need a breakthrough to grow. You need focus. You need patience. You need the courage to copy what works. Over time, as you apply their systems, you'll start building your own. The habits you borrow will evolve into habits you own. One day, others will study you, the way you studied them. And when they ask how you reached where you are, you'll be able to say the truth. I studied those ahead of me. I copied what worked. I applied relentlessly. And over time, the process built the results. That's not luck. That's not magic. That's how growth works. That's how mastery is built. Not by chance. By clear, focused application of what works. You're not lost. You're not behind. You simply need to start applying. The winners have already left you the trail. Now follow it. Most people don't fail because the work is too hard. They fail because it becomes too boring. Their downfall isn't exhaustion, it's losing interest. They begin full of excitement, energized by new goals, but that enthusiasm fades when progress slows and the routine becomes repetitive. This is where most people exit the race, not because they couldn't handle difficulty, but because they couldn't handle monotony. What they don't understand is that boredom is not a problem to avoid. It's a barrier to break. On the other side of boredom is mastery. The winners, the ones who actually build something extraordinary, have one key difference. They stay locked in when the excitement disappears. They keep showing up when others drift away. They understand that repetition is the soil where greatness grows. Growth doesn't happen during bursts of motivation. It happens during the long, uneventful stretches where you keep doing the right thing day after day, even when it feels like nothing is changing. This isn't where most people want to live. This is why most people don't succeed. Every time you push through the boredom instead of giving up, you're forging a stronger level of discipline. You're developing a muscle most never build. That ability, to stay consistent without excitement, is what separates people who wish from people who win. Because real progress hides behind those boring stretches. The periods where you don't see results, where everything feels like a flat line, where nothing seems to move, this is exactly where the transformation is happening underneath the surface. Most people confuse boredom with a signal that something's wrong. They assume they need a new plan, a fresh goal, or another system. So they bounce from one thing to the next, always looking for variety. But every time they start over, they delay their own progress. They fail to understand, mastery isn't built by switching strategies. It's built by staying focused long enough for the process to take effect. Winners don't chase variety, they build tolerance for repetition. You have to rewire your relationship with boredom. See it not as a problem, but as proof that you're finally in the rhythm where real growth occurs. Boredom means you've moved past the honeymoon phase. Now you're in the actual work. You won't always feel inspired. You won't always see dramatic progress. Some days you'll wonder if your efforts are even making a difference. That's normal. That's the territory of growth. Your job is not to constantly feel good. Your job is to remain consistent even when you don't. Think about anything meaningful you've ever achieved, learning to walk, speak, read, or drive. None of those skills came from novelty. They came from repetition. Over and over again until they became second nature. The difference now is that you've grown impatient. As an adult, you crave excitement. You want stimulation. You want fast results. But success doesn't operate on your emotional schedule. It operates on discipline, consistency, and time. You don't need new feelings. You need new commitment. You need to stay locked on your target, even when your emotions beg you to wander. This is where most people lose. They let boredom become the excuse that unravels everything. The greats build a different kind of strength, one that stays locked in through the dull days. They train when it's quiet. They repeat when no one's clapping. They refine the same small skills over and over until they are automatic. That's how champions are made. When you feel bored, that's your moment to sharpen discipline. Each time you push through, you teach your mind, action isn't dependent on excitement. You're rewiring yourself for consistency without emotion. This is real freedom, the ability to move forward without needing to feel anything special first. Because when you rely on motivation, you're a prisoner to your emotions. When you rely on discipline, you're free. The more often you push through the boredom, the easier it becomes. Your brain adapts. You stop needing stimulation to work. You simply work. Every day you stay consistent, while others drift off chasing something new, you create separation. Not through talent, not through luck, but through endurance. The people who keep starting over never catch up to the ones who keep going. There will always be a voice in your head tempting you to stop. It whispers, "This is getting boring. Maybe you need a new plan. Maybe you should take a break." That voice doesn't care about why. Our success, it cares about your comfort. Ignore it. Let it talk. But don't listen. Stay with your process. You're not here to chase feelings. You're here to build something real. And real growth isn't loud. Often, it's silent, steady, and almost invisible, until one day the results explode. Progress compounds in the quiet. The days where everything feels routine, where you almost feel robotic, these are the days that build the strongest foundation. You don't need talent to endure boredom. You need a decision. A simple choice: stay locked in. Honor your routine. Don't allow feelings to dictate your actions. That choice, made over and over, transforms who you become. One day people will look at your results and wonder how you did it. They'll ask how you stayed so focused while others lost their way. The answer won't be dramatic. It'll be simple. You stopped expecting every day to feel exciting. You learned to do the work whether you felt like it or not. That discipline made you unstoppable. The ones who outlast boredom are the ones who reach the top. If you want to start any important task, the first thing you must do is clear your environment. Before you dive into deep work, before you start chasing big goals, before you begin anything meaningful, clean up your space. This isn't about perfection. It's not about being obsessive. It's about removing unnecessary friction. Because the condition of your environment directly affects the condition of your mind. When your desk is cluttered, when your workspace is chaotic, when your surroundings are filled with scattered items pulling for your attention, you're not just dealing with physical mess, you're dealing with mental noise. Your brain constantly processes everything in your field of vision. Even if you think you're ignoring the clutter, your mind isn't. Each loose paper, each unfinished task in your line of sight, each object out of place sends subtle signals. They whisper, "This still needs to be handled, this is unfinished, this is distracting." And those micro signals steal pieces of your focus. You can't expect your brain to lock into high-level performance while fighting these tiny distractions. You may not feel it consciously, but the weight is there. That's why the simple act of cleaning your space is so powerful. It's not just about tidiness, it's a form of preparation. It's a ritual that tells your brain, "We're entering focused work mode now." Successful people understand this intuitively. They clear their space before they create. They remove visual noise before they think deeply. They reduce decisions before they execute. Because preparation isn't wasted time, it's part of the work. You don't walk onto a field without stretching. You don't lift heavy without warming up. So why would you begin work, mental or creative, without clearing the stage for your focus? This doesn't require hours of organizing. In most cases, 5 to 10 minutes is enough to reset your environment. Push aside the clutter. File loose papers. Close unnecessary browser tabs. Remove items that don't serve your immediate task. Put your tools in place. Create a physical signal that it's time to get serious. That small action has a psychological effect far greater than its effort. It triggers a mental state shift from scattered to centered. You feel lighter. You feel more in control. And your brain is free to apply full energy to the task at hand. Most people overlook this because they confuse productivity with rushing. They want to jump straight into action. They open their laptop while still surrounded by yesterday's mess, with notifications buzzing, half-completed tasks visible, and distractions waiting to attack their attention. Then they wonder why they struggle to concentrate. They blame their focus instead of their environment. But your space is a mirror of your mindset. When you create external clarity, you support internal clarity. The fewer decisions your brain must make before starting, the stronger your start becomes. There's a compound effect at play here too. When you build the habit of cleaning your space before every important task, you're training yourself in discipline. You're reinforcing the message. I take my work seriously. I show up prepared. I honor the task. That discipline carries over. You start managing your time better. You start controlling your emotions better. You start building stronger habits across every area, not because of some huge breakthrough, but because you practice small intentional preparation daily. A clear space leads to clear decisions. Fewer distractions mean fewer temptations to procrastinate. Less chaos around you means less chaos inside you. You won't waste energy searching for misplaced items. You won't have your attention hijacked by clutter that reminds you of unfinished projects. You won't start your workday already mentally fatigued. You start clean. You begin sharp. And that sharpness compounds over time. People often underestimate how many distractions they invite into their work by tolerating disorder. The truth is, your environment is constantly programming your brain whether you acknowledge it or not. When your workspace signals clarity, your brain responds with focus. When your workspace signals overwhelm, your brain responds with scattered energy. Cleaning your space before starting work is an act of self-respect. It's a physical demonstration that your goals matter. That what you're about to do is worthy of your full attention. And when you make that decision daily, you start to take yourself more seriously. You become someone who doesn't cut corners. Someone who doesn't rush sloppily into things. Someone who prepares. Preparation isn't wasted time, it's an investment into better execution. This simple habit also protects you from the trap of procrastination disguised as productivity. How many times have you opened your workspace only to be pulled into side tasks? Emails, open browser tabs, loose paperwork, scattered objects, all calling for attention before you even start your real work. By clearing your space first, you eliminate those detours. You reduce the friction that leads to wasted time. You protect your most valuable resource, your attention. Attention is the currency of success. Every distraction steals compound interest from your future. When you control your environment, you control your inputs. And when you control your inputs, you control your outputs. This habit also builds consistency. Your mind begins to associate a clean workspace with serious focus. Eventually, it becomes automatic. You sit down, your space is clear, and your brain drops into deep work faster because you've anchored the habit. You don't have to fight resistance every time you start. You've trained your environment to support your performance. The difference between people who struggle and those who excel isn't just about talent or ambition, it's about how effectively they create conditions for success. You don't need a fancy system. You don't need special tools. You need intentional preparation. Every single time you sit down to work. Before every meaningful task, ask yourself, is my space supporting my focus? If not, clear it. Take 5 minutes. That tiny investment will repay itself in sharper concentration, faster execution, and more consistent performance. Make this a non-negotiable rule. Never begin important work in a cluttered space. Because how you enter the work shapes how you perform the work. This is how serious people operate. This is how you train yourself to treat your work like it matters. And when you show up like it matters, your results follow. Clean your space. Set the tone. And then execute. Whenever life throws challenges, setbacks, or frustrations your way, and it will, the most important thing you can do isn't to complain, blame, or retreat. The most powerful tool you have in these moments is the quality of your questions. Most people respond to difficulty by asking weak questions. They fall into the trap of victim thinking. Why does this always happen to me? Why can't I catch a break? Why is everything so hard for me? These questions don't solve anything. They don't generate solutions. They simply recycle the problem and feed helplessness. And the more you repeat these questions, the deeper you sink into frustration and paralysis. Because your mind, like a search engine, goes wherever you direct it. If you feed it weak, emotional, or self-defeating questions, it will search for confirming answers. And it will find them. Ask, why am I so unlucky? And your brain will start pulling up every past failure, every misfortune, every shortcoming. Building a false narrative of your own incompetence. That's why most people stay stuck, not because of the external problem, but because of the mental loops they fall into while reacting to the problem. Successful people operate differently. When they face obstacles, they immediately switch to better questions. What can I learn from this? What needs to change right now? What adjustment would get me back on track? What is this situation teaching me about myself? Who can I learn from to handle this better? Strong questions pull your brain toward solutions. They open your awareness. They activate your resourcefulness. They stop you from spinning emotionally and start you moving intentionally. The moment something goes wrong is a crucial fork in the road. Either you feed helplessness or you trigger growth. The situation may not be your fault. But how you respond, how you think about it, how you ask questions about it, that's fully within your control. This is where real self-leadership begins. Most people confuse reacting with responding. Reacting is automatic. It's emotional. It's often unproductive. Responding requires thought. It requires discipline. It begins with asking the right questions. The better your questions, the better your thinking becomes. And better thinking leads to better action. Instead of dwelling on the pain, train yourself to shift quickly. This is painful. But what adjustments can I make? This setback is frustrating. But what part of this was under my control? This isn't what I expected. But what's one small action I can take right now? One question can change your entire emotional state. If you ask, what's one small thing I can do today to move forward? Your brain gets to work immediately searching for that next small step. and even one step forward starts to break the paralysis of frustration. This ability doesn't come naturally. It's a skill you must practice. Because in the heat of disappointment or difficulty, your first instinct will often be to collapse emotionally. Your brain wants comfort. It wants blame. It wants to hand off responsibility. Your job is to interrupt that pattern quickly and redirect with a better question. Instead of saying, "Why can't I handle this?" say, "What would my strongest self do right now?" Instead of thinking, "I'm failing again," ask, "What system failed? What habit needs to change?" You can't eliminate problems from your life, but you can upgrade how you navigate them. You may not control the size of the storm, but you absolutely control how you sail through it, and your questions are your steering wheel. The truth is, most breakthroughs don't come from having perfect plans. They come from asking better questions when your original plan falls apart. Bad questions keep you focused on what's missing. Good questions keep you focused on what's possible. Sometimes, when you're stuck for answers, the question alone is enough. Your mind will continue working on it quietly, even if the answer doesn't appear right away. You'll be walking, driving, or resting, and suddenly an insight will surface, all because you planted the right question earlier. The brain is always processing in the background. When you feed it stronger questions, you prime it for better solutions. Don't expect instant clarity every time. Expect process. Ask. Reflect. Wait. Apply. Repeat. And over time, you'll notice something powerful. You'll stop fearing challenges as much. You'll develop a calmness under pressure. You'll know that when problems appear, you have the tools to navigate, not because you always have perfect answers, but because you've built the habit of asking forward-moving questions. That's real mental strength. The person who can ask clear, focused questions in the middle of frustration is the person who outgrows frustration faster. The person who can step back from emotional reactions and analyze with strong questions is the person who levels up. You don't need someone else to guide you through every problem. You need to become the kind of person who guides yourself through better questions. Most people stay stuck because they keep recycling weak, emotional, unproductive questions. They keep feeding their brain bad inputs, and they wonder why they feel more lost. Upgrade your inputs. Upgrade your thinking. Upgrade your life. When you're frustrated, exhausted, overwhelmed, pay attention to what you're asking yourself. Stop asking, "Why is this so hard for me? Why can't I handle this? Why does this always happen?" Start asking, "What's the most productive thing I can do next? What small adjustment would make a difference? Who can I learn from to navigate this better? What is this challenge revealing about my weaknesses, and how can I correct them?" Even when emotions are high, you can practice this. Especially when emotions are high. That's where discipline lives. That's where the separation happens. People who stay stuck spend more energy spinning emotionally than they do problem solving. People who rise ask questions that point them forward, even while they're still uncomfortable. It's not about pretending everything's okay. It's about refusing to let difficulty steal your clarity. Growth doesn't happen by avoiding challenges. Growth happens by thinking better inside challenges. The quality of your thinking is always shaped by the quality of your questions. Master this habit, and you'll begin to notice something else. Your confidence will rise, not because your problems disappear, but because you trust your ability to handle them. Strong questions build strong thinkers. Strong thinkers build strong lives. That's how you break free from cycles of frustration, self-doubt, and stagnation. Not by waiting for perfect circumstances, but by steering your mind through each storm with better questions, one thought at a time. If you truly want to change your life, you need to carefully evaluate the people you allow into your closest circle. Not with emotion, not out of guilt or habit, but with full honesty. Your circle isn't just your friends, it's your environment, your influences, your daily energy. And whether you realize it or not, that circle is shaping your direction every single day. You are heavily influenced by the people you spend the most time with, their habits, their beliefs, their discipline, their ambitions, their excuses. All of it affects your mindset. All of it influences your standards. All of it slowly pushes you in one direction or another. You can't claim you want to build a life of high standards while surrounding yourself with people who constantly lower theirs. You can't say you want to grow, to build discipline, to stay focused, while your circle normalizes laziness, distractions, and avoidance. Your environment is either sharpening you or softening you. You absorb the energy around you. You absorb the conversations you hear daily. You adopt the standards of your group, whether you're conscious of it or not. If your circle is full of people who make excuses, who stay stuck, who waste time, who fear change, over time, you will start to normalize those same behaviors. And the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to break free. That's why your circle must match your vision. If you want long-term growth, you need to build a circle of people who live in the same direction you're heading. People who don't just say they want to grow. People who actually live it. Surround yourself with people who take personal responsibility. People who challenge themselves daily. People who are constantly learning, building, refining, and taking ownership of their future. When you share your goals with these kinds of people, they don't dismiss you. They support you. And more importantly, they hold you accountable to your own standards. They don't let you lower the bar when you feel tired or lazy. They don't allow you to make constant excuses. They see your potential even when you're slipping. And they expect you to rise to meet it. That's not control. That's accountability. That's the kind of energy you need if you want to keep leveling up. But most people stay trapped in circles that feel familiar, circles that feel comfortable, circles built on shared weaknesses rather than shared discipline. And as a result, they stagnate together. They stay locked in mediocrity together. They validate each other's excuses and make it harder for anyone to break free. When you begin to grow, you will notice something. Some people will get uncomfortable with your growth. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your improvement shines a light on their comfort. And rather than rising with you, many will subtly or openly resist your change. They'll tease you for being too serious. They'll question why you're trying so hard. They'll try to pull you back into old patterns because your progress threatens their comfort zone. And in these moments, you have to decide, your vision or their comfort. You don't need to abandon people with anger. You don't need to create drama. But you do need to make deliberate decisions about where your time and energy go. Not everyone who started with you will finish with you. Not everyone is equipped to walk the whole journey with you. That's not failure. That's simply growth. If you want to grow into a stronger, more disciplined, more focused version of yourself, you must constantly audit your circle. Ask yourself regularly, are these people helping me sharpen my focus or distract me from it? Do they hold me accountable or enable my excuses? Do they challenge me to level up or keep me stuck where I am? Are they living with discipline or just talking about it? You don't need a large group of people. You just need a few serious, committed individuals who share your drive, who respect your standards, and who live what they preach. If you can't find them immediately, become that person yourself first. Be the person who lives with discipline, who shows up consistently, who takes ownership of their behavior. When you move like that, you naturally attract others on the same frequency. Energy recognizes energy. Your standards create your circle. When you refuse to tolerate your own excuses, you'll stop tolerating others' excuses as well. When you build your discipline daily, you'll attract those who are building theirs. When you prioritize growth over comfort, you'll find people who respect that pursuit. But you will not attract growth-focused people while you're still entertaining weak habits and weak relationships. Don't confuse loyalty with stagnation. Some people were only meant to be part of your earlier chapters. And that's okay. You can love them, respect them, and still create distance that allows you to fully pursue your potential. Your circle should fuel you, not drain you. After spending time with them, ask yourself, do I feel more driven or more discouraged? Do I feel more focused or more distracted? Do I leave motivated or drained? Pay attention to those signals. Your energy doesn't lie. You need people who sharpen you, who call you out when you slip, who remind you of your commitments when you're tempted to quit. Good people won't let you lie to yourself. They won't tolerate half effort. They'll correct you when you drift because they care about where you're heading. These people don't have to be perfect. Nobody is. But they're serious about their path. They're committed to growth. And they push you simply by the way they live. You don't need friends who tell you what you want to hear. You need friends who tell you what you need to hear. The friend who challenges your laziness. The friend who asks, "What are you building right now?" The friend who reminds you of your standards when you lower them. That kind of circle accelerates your growth. That kind of circle sharpens your mind. That kind of circle holds you to a higher level of personal excellence. Most people avoid this level of accountability because it's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where the growth lives. You're not competing with anyone else. You're competing with the weakest version of yourself. And your circle either fuels that battle or weakens you in it. If you want an extraordinary life, you cannot build it in a weak environment. You cannot rise in a circle where discipline is mocked and comfort is praised. You must actively choose your circle based on where you want your life to go. Growth is lonely only at first. Once you build your discipline, once you start moving, once you elevate your standards, the right people will find you. Or you'll find them. But you won't attract those people by playing small. You won't attract disciplined people while living in undisciplined ways. You won't attract people who value their time if you waste your own. Raise your standards and let your environment rise with it. Because when you build the right circle, everything accelerates. Your standards rise. Your consistency improves. Your confidence strengthens. Surround yourself with those who make growth your only option. At the end of every day, one of the most powerful habits you can build is the habit of personal review. Not to criticize yourself, not to create guilt or shame, but to observe your own behavior with honesty, so you can keep improving. Growth doesn't happen automatically. Progress doesn't happen by accident. You don't become disciplined by hoping for it. You grow by evaluating your actions, recognizing your weak points, and deliberately correcting them. Every single day, you're collecting data on yourself, in your habits, your choices, your reactions, your energy. But most people never analyze that data. They finish the day, distract themselves, and carry the same patterns into tomorrow. That's why so many stay stuck, not because they aren't capable of change, but because they refuse to study themselves with honesty. You can't fix what you refuse to face. You can't improve what you won't admit needs work. You don't need to be perfect. But you do need to be real. At the end of each day, take 5 quiet minutes and reflect. How did I show up today? Where was I sharp, focused, consistent? Where did I allow distractions, laziness, or excuses to slip in? Where did I break my own standards? What did I avoid that I should have faced? This isn't about writing essays or obsessing. It's about daily self-awareness. Because once you identify the weak points, you can start correcting them immediately. Maybe you got distracted too easily today. That's your data. Maybe you broke your morning routine. That's your data. Maybe you let a hard conversation slide that you needed to have. That's your data. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for adjustments. Small, consistent adjustments that compound over time into massive personal growth. The people who grow fastest aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the ones who review themselves daily, correct quickly, and keep momentum. This habit takes maturity. It takes humility. It takes the ability to say, "I slipped here, and I'm going to tighten that tomorrow." Most people avoid this because it's uncomfortable to admit weakness. But the ones who grow are the ones who face that discomfort directly and take action. Every interaction you had today, every decision, every conversation, every choice, holds a lesson. If you ignore it, you repeat mistakes. If you study it, you build mastery. Think like a coach reviewing the game film. Where did I execute well? Where did I miss? What adjustment would have changed the outcome? The faster you start doing this daily, the faster you grow. And you don't need to overthink it. One adjustment per day is enough. Just one. Fix one thing. Tighten one behavior. If you lost focus today, plan tomorrow's work environment to minimize distractions. If you procrastinated on a task, set an exact start time for it tomorrow. If you allowed your emotions to control a conversation, plan a response strategy next time. Small corrections build big results, because they prevent you from repeating the same weakness over and over. If you keep making the same mistakes daily, you're not failing because you're incapable. You're failing because you're not reflecting. You cannot build mastery without feedback, and the most important feedback is self-feedback. The more you train yourself to review your behavior, the more automatic your course corrections become. It builds internal trust. You no longer need external motivation or constant reminders. You're leading yourself. Most people waste years making the same errors because they won't sit still for 5 minutes of honest reflection. But not you. You are choosing ownership. You are choosing correction. You are choosing responsibility. And that choice, made daily, is what separates those who talk about growth from those who live it. This habit also raises your personal standards over time. Once you start catching your own weak moments daily, you begin to expect more from yourself. You tolerate less sloppiness. You stop making excuses. Your mind sharpens. Your self-respect grows. Your discipline deepens. Because every time you review and correct, you're proving something to yourself. I care enough to fix it. I refuse to stay stuck. I will improve, one decision at a time. And that builds confidence, not the fake, loud kind, but the deep, quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are actively improving. You trust yourself because you've earned that trust through daily adjustments. Your weak points aren't shameful. They're simply signals pointing you toward what needs attention. They are opportunities, but only if you act on them. Every night before you close the day, sit quietly. No phone. No noise. Just you. Ask simple, honest questions. Identify one adjustment. Commit to applying that correction tomorrow. Over time, you will notice a shift. You make fewer emotional decisions. You stay more focused under pressure. You stop repeating small mistakes. You move through your day with more confidence and control. Most people wait for rock-bottom moments to correct course. You correct daily, which prevents those rock-bottom moments entirely. You catch problems early. You correct weaknesses quickly. You sharpen your edge continuously. And eventually, this daily reflection becomes your secret weapon, a private system of personal accountability that most people will never build. While others wonder why they're not progressing, you're quietly evolving every single day. While others repeat the same weak habits year after year, you're tightening yours every 24 hours. While others blame circumstances, you focus on adjustments. This is how you build personal mastery. Not by accident. Not by chance. By deliberate daily self-review. You don't need anyone else to hold you accountable if you build this system. You become your own leader. You become your own coach. You become your own correction mechanism. And as that happens, you'll notice something powerful. Your mind becomes sharper. Your decisions become cleaner. Your focus becomes stronger. Your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because you've trained yourself to rise above your weak moments. You've taught yourself that every day is an opportunity to sharpen your performance. And over months, over years, that consistency transforms everything. In your work, in your health, in your relationships, in your mindset, in your results. Because every time you make one small correction today, you avoid one massive failure tomorrow. You're not waiting for motivation. You're not waiting for inspiration. You're not hoping things improve. You're doing the work of daily personal leadership. And that discipline, that quiet daily correction, builds a level of strength and focus most people will never touch. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to care enough to correct your course. Every single day. That's how mastery is built. That's how lives are changed. That's how greatness is created: one correction, one adjustment, one honest review, every night. And if you keep doing that, you will rise higher than you ever thought possible. Quietly, deliberately, powerfully.